Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. It's a full week of February edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. Happy Monday to everybody. Hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome to Super Bowl week. What must that be like to be a fan of a team playing in the game this week? That's only a dream for most of us out there, myself included. I can't even begin to tell you where I think I would be mentally at if my team was actually in the Super Bowl on the week of the game. I've already pledged that if somehow this happens in my lifetime, I'm 43, I'm going to be 44 next month, that if the New York Football Jets ever somehow make it there, that I will spend whatever exorbitant amount of sums of money to make sure that I'm there. It has already been decreed that the money is set aside for if I'm in the nosebleeds, I don't care. I want to be in the building, wherever that is. So next year it's in, I think, New Orleans. I can do that. No, Vegas next year, then New Orleans. I can do either one. Let's go. We're just missing our quarterback. Maybe he won the Pebble Beach Pro-Am this weekend. Let's see. Hope everybody, like I mentioned, had a great weekend. Quick story before we get going. Courtney and I, my wife and I, took the Jackman to Monster Jam on Saturday night at the Dome. And first off, I've never done it before. Never. It is an unreal presentation. I'll just say that. They don't mess around, which I did not know. Like I went in not knowing anything. Second, the drivers there are unbelievable. That I have no idea how earthly they do any of said stunts, tricks, whatever you want to call it. Thirdly, the Jackman loved it. That was really cool. We had a great time. It was fun, and I have a feeling we're going again next year. I'll just say that. But that was one of the highlights of the weekend, no doubt, was Saturday night at the Dome. It was packed, too. I shouldn't be surprised maybe about that either. But there was plenty of people there on Saturday night at the Dome. So fun to take that in. And heck, yesterday the weather was not horrendous in terms of like no wind and the sun came out, which was okay. So anytime you can do that, and what is it, the 5th of February, you take that and run. So brief recap of our weekend here. We got a fun show today, a lot to cover on a busy week. We mentioned it is Super Bowl week. We'll have a bunch of conversation on that and locally as well. There's a couple local angles that we'll be tying into this week and leading up to the game, which comes up, of course, Sunday in Arizona, the game on Fox. We'll dive into that as the week moves on. Wednesday potentially could be a huge day for sports in this state. The North Dakota High School Activities Association Executive Board will reconvene on Wednesday with the potential to vote on the 3-class renovated proposal, maybe is the best way I could describe it. We'll dive in more on that over the next couple days, and obviously with full coverage coming up on Wednesday. And potential. They may not. They've set February 22nd as the drop-dead date to make it happen for next year. Not for ever, just for next year. Which I know there's momentum to make it happen. We'll see. We're going to get into that coming up throughout the week. As well, as we now have reached the full first week of February here. We're just a couple weeks out from state tournaments beginning. State wrestling is 2 weeks away at the Dome. Then we're on to hockey, hoops, and we're going till we come up for air in April is basically the next the next 6-7 weeks is going to be like. So should be fun. Let's start our show. The Timberwolves, I honestly, they never grab your attention, at least for me, for the first 13, 14 years I lived here. Until now, the last couple, where the Wolves were pretty good last year. Enjoyed watching them play, especially in the playoffs. This season, with the addition of Rudy Gobert, like, all right, they're going to be really good. Hasn't turned out that way. But at least the last couple of games has been must-see TV. They wrapped up their 6-game homestand last night with Denver at Target Center. Now, the Nuggets were coming in off the second game of a back-to-back. Their head coach, Mike Malone, was bemoaning it in the pregame press conference, and he had apparently the storyline already played out. The highlights of this last night, because it was over early. It was only a 3-point game late in the first quarter. Jaden McDaniels was back for the Wolves. Drives and scores there. And you see the score right, folks. This game went from 29-26 to 49-26 in no time. The Wolves went on a 26-0 run in this game. D'Angelo Russell, look at the nifty look pass there to Gobert. I mean, honestly, it was no effort shown by the Nuggets. They wanted no part of facing off against a Denver team that was beat up, and the Wolves took full advantage of this one last night. The Nuggets didn't have Jokic playing. They didn't have Jamal Murray playing. They didn't have Aaron Gordon playing, which are their top 3 guys. And if you're going to do that, then you best blitz them, and that's exactly what the Timberwolves did. You see Ant with a step-back 3. These two teams are going to play again Tuesday night. The Wolves win it, though, 128-98 the final. It takes away a little bit of the bitterness that would happen on Friday, which we'll show you in a little bit, of a wild scene at Target Center. And I get it. The back-to-back deal is just, that's professional life. You sign up for that. That's the deal. I hate the load management deal that happens it only happens in basketball. Doesn't happen in baseball. It doesn't happen in hockey. I'm talking just the sports that play all the time, because football certainly doesn't fall under that category. But it just gets old after a while of guys that sit out, as you saw on last night in that game. So here are the up-to-date standings now in the Western Conference as we head into a new week. And you see, again, the fluctuation, and obviously the big deal that went down yesterday, for those that either heard or didn't, that the Brooklyn Nets are sending Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks, which is going to shake up things in the Western Conference here, depending, obviously, if Kyrie wants to play. You see Dallas currently holds the 6th spot. Phoenix, which I think last week was in the 10 spot, has now risen, because they won 2 games in a row, has gone all the way up to 5. The Wolves hold the 7th spot right now, so they would host the Warriors in the play-in game. With the Pelicans, New Orleans, now they've won 2 in a row. Prior to that, they lost 10 in a row. To drop all the way, the Pelicans, I think, were 3rd, all the way to now 9th, and then the Jazz are a half game ahead of Portland, who holds the 11th spot. Not seen on there is the Lakers, who are all the way down in 13th. It is really intriguing to see what's going to happen here. And we mentioned this last week. Real quickly, I'll do this again here. For the Wolves, this is what their upcoming schedule is heading into the All-Star break, because we're just a week away, or 2 weeks away, from the All-Star break. They go to Denver Tuesday. Back-to-back, they play the Jazz Wednesday. Then Friday at Memphis. We know that's tough. Then Monday at Dallas. Next 4 are going to be brutal. Then home for the Wizards, and then the All-Star break. So it's coming for them, and it's coming pretty quick. And that's why this homestand that they just wrapped up was so important. Of the 6 games that they played at home, they won 4 of them. They beat Memphis, they beat Sacramento, Golden State, the thriller there in overtime, and then Denver. Losses to the Magic, which was bad, and the loss to Sacramento in overtime, which was not great. Honestly, as I look at this, there's not a stretch of I've not watched more Wolves basketball over the last 2 weeks than I have my entire time out here. No doubt. So, actually, it's old video, Kyle, from on Saturday. I just sent an email into you guys. So, there you have it with where the Wolves are at right now. Now, the other big thing that happened over the weekend, and we'll get to the hoop stuff later on when Jeff Kolpack joins us. We'll break down what everything happened Bison basketball related, was the Senior Bowl in Mobile. Now, literally, as we had Cody Mauch's dad, Joe, join us Friday. If you missed that, go back and podcast. That was fun. It was a lot of good stuff. Literally, half hour after we're off the air, I get a message, and I'm not bragging here, I get a message from Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl. We've had Jim on the show. We're going to have him on again as we get closer to the draft. And, hey, just so a heads up, this is coming out here in a couple minutes. Just wanted to let you know that Cody Mauch was named the National Team Offensive Lineman Practice Player of the Week. 3rd year in a row that's happened, that a Bison has been named the Practice Player of the Week. Dylan Radins was the overall practice player in 2021. Christian Watson was named the wide receiver of the week last year, and now Mauch gets this on Friday. And in the game Saturday, he played all 3 positions on the offensive line. He snapped the ball, he played guard, as you can see on this play, and he played tackle at the Senior Bowl. And again, I know for people that are in the mix and they understand the nuts and bolts of the draft process, they know the game is almost inconsequential to the week. And we highlighted it throughout the week. You see here he's playing guard, that his week was astronomical, was really good. And I would imagine either later today or sometime tomorrow, the latest draft projections will be out, and reflective of what the Senior Bowl was, and we can maybe take a firmer look on what's going to happen. But as the whole process goes, and I think people understand this now, especially after living what we did with Christian Watson last year, that it's Senior Bowl first, if you get invited, then the Combine, and then Pro Day. That's the 3 checklists there. There's a big red check mark for Cody Mauch next to the Senior Bowl. He had a great week. And next up is the Combine. And again, I don't think it's going to be anything on the field that's going to set him over the top. I honestly, and we talked about this with his dad, it's the interviews where he can knock you out of the park. I really believe that's going to be the case. So if he was being touted as a late to middle second round guy before, which is what we heard, then are we talking right where Christian was last year, early second round, potential late first round? We still got a ways to go. As Eric reminds me, we still are basically 3 months from the draft, 2.5 months from the draft, but that's a big check mark there for Cody Mauch for what he did this weekend. We got a packed show coming up for you here on this Monday. As per usual, as I mentioned, Jeff Kolpack will be by in just a few minutes. We'll recap the Bison basketball weekend. It was not a great one. South Dakota State swept the Bison on Saturday. The women saw what SDSU does all the time. The Jacks win by 28 on Saturday at the Shack. Meanwhile, in Brookings, a heck of a game that the Bison men shoot 60% and lost on Saturday. Zeke Mayo went crazy for the Jacks. We'll recap that coming up at 9:35. Super excited to visit with former Bison offensive lineman, guy that played right next to Cody Mauch for the last 3 years, Nash Jensen, who himself played in an all-star game last weekend out at the Rose Bowl in L.A. We'll get an update on where things stood after that and what's ahead for him coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, we'll dive back into the 3-class basketball discussion. We'll head out to the western part of the state, southwestern part of the state. Scranton Superintendent Kelly Pierce, former girls basketball coach at Henniger Scranton, Kelly Pierce will join us. He took his Nighthawks to the state tournament multiple times. We'll get his thoughts on where, especially for that size of school and in girls hoops. I know I've had several people ask me, Dom, we haven't had a ton of girls basketball reaction on this. I trust Kelly's opinion more than most on where he sees things there at heading into a potential vote on Wednesday. We'll do that coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here over our 2-hour tour. We'll take a break. We'll celebrate the best of the weekend, which included a brawl at Target Center. We're off and rolling on a Monday. Hot Mike returns right after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. All right, ready to rock and roll here on a Monday morning. Just saw a quick thing on the old Twitter machine here. By the way, the Vikings still don't have a defensive coordinator. Guy they were hoping to hire took the Panthers' defensive coordinator job, so they're still sitting out there waiting for somebody to call them back, it seems like. So nothing yet there on the Vikings update for a defensive coordinator. And real quick, I follow a couple of really neat mid-major Twitter accounts. One called @low_madness, and they put out a weekly poll of like the small conference top 25. So these are all schools that are obviously not in the Power 5 leagues. And number 1 and number 2, North Dakota State has played on the men's side. Oral Roberts is number 1 for good reason. Number 2 is Eastern Washington, which I know we're not paying attention. We're not great Big Sky basketball minds anymore since UND left the league. But Eastern Washington is blowing away the Big Sky, much like Oral Roberts is doing to the Summit League. And by the way, the Bison went out, you remember, in Cheney and played Eastern to a tough game out there before coming up short in that game. So we hammer the fact, and Richmond will hate, it's not an excuse, but we hammer the fact they played Arkansas and Kansas off the hop to start the season. By the way, their mid-major games were really tough too. Portland was good, and Eastern Washington, you can see, is second on there. So it's not like they played a bunch of Crown colleges and Waldorfs. I know they did play them, but they also played some really tough teams in the mid-major level. But they have their work cut out for them, which we'll get to with Kolpack in just a little bit. Let's fire up our best of the weekend. And anytime we get a fight of this magnitude, we got to show it. Because what happened on Friday night at Target Center between the Wolves and the Magic? Late third quarter, Austin Rivers misses a shot. Markelle Fultz says something on the Magic bench. Or somebody says something on the bench. You can see Rivers looks at the bench. Maybe it was Mo Bamba. And then this happens. And meanwhile, this is happening where you've got actual punches being thrown. And an all-out, Eric loves this word, Donnybrook ensued between the Wolves and the Magic. Rivers got tossed. Mo Bamba got tossed, who got suspended 4 games. Rivers got 3. Then they went at it again, apparently, in the tunnel underneath. I mean, you got actual punches being thrown. Jalen Suggs got a game. I mean, it was just a mess. Jaden McDaniels was fined $20,000. It was a mess. And again, it all stemmed from something said there that Rivers took exception to. And it's, you know what, it's ironic because actually the Wolves were trying to put a rally together here to get back in the game. They're down 10. This play happens when Gobert throws the ball right between Edwards' legs. And meanwhile, this happened on the other end of the court. It was beyond bizarre. So the Wolves ended up losing to the Magic that night. By the way, Orlando is playing spoiler right now because the Magic are buried. The Magic are 13th in the Western Conference. They're 10 games under 500. Continuing a theme for the Timberwolves this season to play horrendously against the teams that are the worst. They've now lost to the Magic. I believe they lost to the Hornets. They got swept by the Pistons this season. They've lost to the Spurs. They've lost to the Rockets. So, I mean, they've played some horrendous basketball against the bad teams. But they'll be without Rivers for a couple more games. The next two, the Denver game and the Utah game, he will not play for the Wolves. Yesterday, saw this as well. It's a shout out to our guy, Stacey Anderson. His Nebraska men's basketball team won yesterday against Penn State. Wouldn't make huge news here, but the guy scoring for Nebraska is pretty big. You know him, number 5. That's Sam Griesel, former Bison standout who's playing for his hometown team, home state team. And Nebraska went on the road, went at home yesterday over Penn State. Huskers don't win many games in the Big Ten, so when they have this happening. But Griesel has played really, really well for Nebraska so far this season as they won yesterday. Nebraska got to 4-9 in conference play. They're 11-13 overall. He's averaging, you can see on the graphic there, just over 11 points per game as they knocked off the Nittany Lions 72-63. They've got Michigan and Wisconsin coming up this week. I'll just say, it's the age of where we're at, but boy, Griesel on this Bison team, they'd be all right, but not the case. He wanted to go home. He wanted to play in Lincoln, and he's doing just that, and he's having a pretty decent year for Nebraska as they head into the home stretch here, which is crazy to think about now as I look at it. But is there 8 games left for the Huskers? The Bison have 6 left in the regular season. It's just wild that we're already at this spot. Lastly, our best of the weekend is just a salute to absolute domination and greatness, because we saw it on Saturday afternoon. The Bison women got off. I think they probably played their best 5 minutes of basketball against South Dakota State in 15 years on Saturday afternoon. From about 105 to 125, it couldn't have gone any better. And then from 126 to 240, it was as bad as you can get because South Dakota State did that. Paige Meyer, by the way, is unreal. She comes off the bench for the Jacks, uncontested there, drive to the basket and score. Drew Gilton, who, by the way, is their 6-year transfer from Utah, who's awesome, drains a 3. This is right before the end of the half, where the Bison scored 3 second-quarter points. Brooklyn Meyer with a lay-in there that put the lead at 10. And they just poured it on in the second half. Tori Nelson, you forget her, put back and basket. I mean, at one point, it was a 25-5 run to put this game from close to a laugher. Meyer then makes the strip there after he gets the basket. Causes Hamling to make the foul there. I mean, it was just a blowout. 82-54 is the final. That one stat you saw on the screen, the Jackrabbits have won 25 of the last 26 against the Bison. This was the most recent bracketology that Charlie Cream does for ESPN that came out on Friday. I think he'll have another one out today. You see that the Jackrabbits as a 12, which actually I think is kind of low considering what SDSU's resume is, including 2 top 25 wins. They beat Louisville and they beat Kansas State. They would have them playing Virginia Tech right now out of the ACC in the opening round of the NCAA basketball tournament. Personally, that can get they're not. Who's going to beat them? That's what I asked Amy Rulli when we were on the air on Saturday. Who's beating this team between now and the tournament? I don't know. Nobody's going to beat them in the regular season. Let's just say that right now. I mean, they play the Coyotes again this weekend. They're not losing to USD. USD got swept this weekend. Coyotes lost to both to the Bison on Thursday, and then UND got them on Saturday up in Grand Forks. So, I mean, USD's got to fight off now with UND for the 4 and the 5 spot. By the way, that loss by South Dakota was actually helped out the Bison. You can see they've got a 2-game cushion now in the loss column, despite the fact that Oral Roberts now leapfrogged the Bison because they have the head-to-head, remember? And Oral Roberts comes here a week from Thursday. That's going to be the biggest game of the year for the Bison women. I'm going to tell you that right now. If they want that 2 seed, they got to win that game. But just quickly going back to SDSU before we wrap up this segment. The Jacks have 5 games left. You can see they're 13-0. At South Dakota, nope. Denver, nope. Omaha, nope. At Kansas City, nope. At Oral Roberts, nope. They're going unbeaten, folks. They're going to be 18-0 in conference play, just like the Jack men were last year. And then the number 1 seed in Sioux Falls, I know the old axiom is all it takes is 1, but who's beating them? I mean, Jory Collins said after the game, I think we're going to see him again. Like the bravado, like the confidence. That means for the Bison and their sakes, it better be in the conference tournament championship game. Because anywhere ahead of that, not going to be pretty. And actually, the result may be the same in the Summer League Tournament Championship. But to me, if you look at that standings graphic again, Oral Roberts has played well. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but let's see how they do on the road, all right? Oral Roberts has to still come up here and to UND. Their last stretch here, 3 of 5 at home. They beat NDSU convincingly. They beat UND by 5. They won on the road at Denver and won on the road at Omaha, and then whooped Kansas City. And they have 2 more at home this weekend. They got St. Thomas and Western, and you can see right there, those are the worst 2 teams in the league. That's why the Bison have to keep pace this weekend. The Bison go to Denver and Omaha this week, so they want to hang on to that tiebreaker there in that 2-3 spot. They got to take care of business. And we'll dive into that more coming up later on in the week. We're overdue for a break. We'll take one now. Jeff Kolpack will be by. We'll break down what we saw there Saturday, also with the Bison men falling in South Dakota State, and a few other items as well. We'll do that one. Hot Mic returns on a Monday morning. We're back after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com.
It's that time. An author,
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, I forgot.
golfer,
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
and one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
That's a perfect segue because you got a date out of here later tonight, huh? You got a date at a tea time, huh?
Forced to go to Arizona.
Forced, yes. And you're lucky enough you're going to be at the second biggest sporting event this weekend. Number 1 is the Super Bowl. Number 2 is the Waste Management Open, which is right next door.
Yeah, not only that, was lucky enough to get in a skybox on hole number 16,
get out of
which is
town.
a
Here we
bucket
go.
list.
Here we go, bragging there.
Bucket list.
What day?
Thursday.
Well, that's going to be a little crazy. Holy cow. Well, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
For people that don't follow golf, tell us why that's such a big deal.
Hole 16 is the very exception to the rule of etiquette when it comes to golf because it's a totally enclosed stadium field. Literally is like 2 or 3 decks. And when golfers come in there, they're almost egging everybody on to yell at you and do anything. And if you hit an errant shot, I'm told they torture you. And I'm going to have to find my mean gene.
It is awesome, honestly.
What if I'm, hey, Hoagie?
Yeah, right? He'll see you. He'll recognize you.
He
loves it. They love him out there. He exits on too.
And what if he hits it in the bunker and I go, Hoagie, you suck. Go back to Fargo.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do. It's what everybody else is doing, right? He actually, I think he holed out a shot there last year or the year before. He loves it. I mean, for how stiff sometimes the sport is, I love that this one is the difference of everybody else.
I'm curious to see what it's like because I grew up with the old school of etiquette of golf, and that you stay quiet and you don't play music and
no cheering.
You're playing golf.
Yep.
And I've lightened up on the music. I have friends that play, and I don't care. I'm not that, I don't take it that serious where I need to have silence at Edgewood. However,
I don't get that whole thing though. Anyway, like, what are you doing? What do you play music for when you're playing? I don't understand that. I can get off a whole deal on that, but that's cool. That'll be fun. But for the professionals, including Hoagie, he's finishing up this morning when they resume in about an hour at Pebble Beach. He will not defend his championship there. I mean, it looked rough. I watched a little bit yesterday. That wind was howling out there.
They did not want to be there, especially the guys who were out of it that weren't going to win the tournament.
They were playing
Hoagie, I'm sure he just wanted to finish, and he missed it by 4 holes. Or some guys, like I read Aaron Baddeley, who's playing in the Monday qualifier today for the Waste Management
in Scottsdale. Yeah,
if he doesn't get off the course, he doesn't play in the Monday qualifier. So I'm just curious the travel accommodations now for these pros. I'm sure they're spending the extra cash for private aviation, I would imagine, because you need to start getting to the TPC in Scottsdale and start your weekly prep.
I watched Hoagie play at a couple of the feature holes, and he
was not happy.
It was light speed. He
was not happy.
He was going up and hitting the ball like, let's go. I want to get out of here, because they didn't start the final round, like the leader, like Justin Rose didn't tee off till 3:30 local time. It was 5:30 Central when he started, so he's still got to play. What is it? The whole back nine.
I think they're through 9. Yeah,
he's got to play the whole back 9 right now, and he leads by 2 at Pebble Beach. So yeah, that's the interesting line when the schedule is thrown off and the golfers are such a routine deal. Boy, it throws everything into anarchy after that, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and you look at. The way and people don't understand, and I really don't, because you don't see it very often. But when you play in a tournament, you just don't show up Thursday morning and tee off.
Right.
I mean, you're there Monday, you're scouting, you're Tuesday. Even though you've played these courses many times in respect, you still have to do your weekly prep and
you have some other added responsibility, maybe media responsibility. Tom had that this past week.
Well, he has
Pebble
it
Beach.
this week. I know a good friend of mine's playing in a sponsor event with Tom. I don't know if it's 9 holes, but
is that right?
Yeah. So Tom's got with Ide Bailey. I know he has some stuff.
Well, obviously, huge Arizona contingent, and I know that, and you know this. There's always been a bunch of Fargo people that have gone to cheer him on, whether they're connected to NDSU or whatever, to go watch him play, and they'll be there.
Oh, for sure.
Again on Thursday.
So it's gonna be, if you're from Fargo and you're in Arizona and there's connections,
you're there.
I remember when Amy was playing. I think she's playing in a tournament down in Phoenix area, and there are a lot of Bison shirts in the gallery.
No doubt about it. So. Be something to follow. That's one of my favorite sporting events of the year. Kolpack's going to be there on Thursday. Get on TV. You're not on TV enough, so let's see if you can do that on Thursday in Scottsdale. Let's start the Bison men. If I would have told you they shoot 60% from the field in Brookings, you tell me what happens then.
They win by 8 to 10.
Yeah. They end up losing by 5. South Dakota State.
How do you give up 41 to Zeke Mayo?
Yeah,
how does a Dave Richmond team give up 41 to Zeke Mayo? Yeah. He's good.
He's really good. Yep.
But I don't know if he's 41 great.
I mean, and the Bison got off to the best start you can imagine. Was you and I were chatting at halftime of the Bison women's game. It was 22-9 at one point. I mean, they were doing. Damari Wheeler-Thomas came back and played well, but the Jacks in that building are tough, and Bison at every opportunity, even when SDSU put a run together to start the second half, to put the Bison answered back. And just, I mean, McFeely and I talked about this on Thursday night after the Bison lost in Vermilion. It's like it's Oral Roberts, and then I don't know if also Rans is the right way to describe it. But
well, everybody else for sure.
There's a bunch of just average teams, and that's kind of what we saw play out this weekend, I think.
Well, I think what we saw is what you get with the Bison men is they have promise. They're good, but they're young, and they just can't get through games like this.
And Dave talked about this on the show when he joined me on Wednesday. He's like, all right, what kind of team are we? If we go in there and get a split, are we in the mixed, or are we just another team and we got swept?
Seems like it's another team.
And that's the part that I got to be really frustrating for him. And now they get set. They got Denver and Omaha coming up here Thursday and Saturday before they have to go to Tulsa and Kansas City. I mean, they're still there's still some difficult games here on the schedule, including St. Thomas and Western on the very last 2 games.
Yeah, and so we're watching the stretch run here, and this is where I think the lack of a senior point guard or junior point guard like a Vinny Shaheen, and we talked about this last week.
The last play is still mind-numbing. I'm not sure what they were trying to do here. That did not.
Well, I think they
obviously work.
They were worried about getting fouled, weren't they? Isn't that the quote that Zimmer talked to Richmond at?
But that was not the best. I don't know what happened there at the end, but I think go back to your point. I think you're right on that. That the teams that win the most in March have the most experience of the guy handling the ball.
Right.
And the Bison certainly do not have that. They don't have a senior on the team. And that's the part maybe it's reared its head in some games and could very well again as we get to the end of the season.
Thank you, transfer portal.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. And the football is suffering this too. Once there's just unknown factor of who's coming back in 5 years, it just kind of interrupts your timeline.
Well,
I think in development.
We were showing highlights of yesterday's Nebraska win over Penn State. That guy, number 5,
Griesel.
was wearing the Husker red and white. He'd be okay on this team. This team would be a whole lot different if he decided to come back and use the extra year of eligibility he had,
Well, I guess I don't blame him. He's come back playing in the Big Ten in his hometown.
You look like a guy like Malik Harden-Hayes, who's playing now at UNC Wilmington.
Playing well.
What he could do for a team like this. I mean, it's a lot of what ifs, and you can't go down that road. But it's just what could have been with this basketball team this year. So now they got 6 left. They're 6-6, and as they currently stand, they're in 6th in the Summit League, which is crazy. They go from 2nd to 6th over a 2-week span.
Yeah, but still not. I mean, it's all they're still bunched up.
Go ahead, Eric. You can bring up the Summit League men's standings here when you have it. But I mean, look at Jeff from 2nd to 7th right now. It's just a 3-game spread.
Well, and that's a lot of games left too.
Yes.
6 games.
Yep.
Could be a whole lot of movement there too.
So, a reminder: Oral Roberts still goes to Brookings. Western still comes to Fargo, as does St. Thomas. They come to Fargo. The Bison have to go to Kansas City on the back end of this, and they still play in Denver and Omaha. That's who they got coming up this week. You got to sweep those games.
Yep.
Got to.
You have to.
You got to take care of those. If you want to stay away from the play-in round on Friday, you got to take care of that. No doubt about it.
I never thought maybe we'd be talking staying away from the play-in round the way things were 2 weeks ago. But that's how fast this has changed.
Well, and again, the Summit, we did this on the podcast on Friday. It's so odd. Western had won 5 in a row, loses by 30 at Denver, then has to scrape out a win at Omaha. I mean, so everything's up for grabs, honestly, in Sioux Falls. I really believe that. Outside of the one spot in Oral Roberts, whoever's going to play them, I have no idea.
Same with the women's. South Dakota State is just so much better, and we saw that on Saturday. Just so much better than anybody else. It's just not. It's apples and oranges.
I still think the Bison women have a pathway to the Summit League championship game, though.
I agree.
They have 6 games left. 5 of them are against teams beneath them in the standings. If you win all those, boy, you got a heck of an argument here. They get Oral Roberts. Here's the updated women's standings. So you get Oral Roberts at home, and then everybody after that is beneath you. You go to Omaha and Denver, as I mentioned.
All winnable.
Right. And then Kansas City, Western, and St. Thomas are on the road. Kansas City, somebody's here. Western and St. Thomas are on the road. You got to win those games. If you're that good, you got to win those games.
I think they will. I do. I think they're going to win 6 in a row here.
I think the win Thursday says more about them than the loss Saturday. You agree with that? About the Bison women?
Nobody's beating the Jacks this year. God, they're just Maya Sellen. She's playing like a pro in a college game, is what she is.
And then you look at Timmer, Paige Meyer, Tori Nelson, Drew Gilton. I mean, they just come in waves at you that I don't know. There's no Summit League team beating them.
Experience. It's what a Jory 3 5-year players. Is that right?
Yeah. And I wouldn't want any part of it. It's Burkhardt, Sellen, and Gilton that have all played over 450 games. So, I mean, and the Bison have Taylor Brown, who's played now 120
Burkhardt wasn't even a factor. You never knew it. You never would have known.
No.
Never would have known.
No, not in a game like that on Saturday. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up hour 1 with Jeff. We'll do that when we come back here on this Monday morning on Hot Mike. Back after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Okay, so Senior Bowl week just wrapped up, and
How'd our guy do?
I think he did pretty well.
I know he did during in practice. How'd he do during the game? Is it
The game
kind of
is
hard to gauge?
Yeah, the
you
game
know?
is inconsequential. That is what
Yeah.
I found out now. It is the game literally means nothing. It is Monday through Thursday. What you do then will really affect what the scouts and the teams think about you. And this should tell you all you need to know. Because I was teasing this off the top, and I just saw Matt Miller, who is one of the great ESPN draft minds. He just put out his predictions, mocks for round 1 and 2. The 27th overall selection from the Buffalo Bills, Cody Mauch, North Dakota State.
Ooh, first round.
First round now. He says the Bills' Super Bowl window is open for how much longer if the team fails to make investments in the run game. There's no running back worthy of being drafted here, but there is a lineman who could help beef up the ground game. Mauch played left tackle at NDSU, but projects on the inside in the NFL. At 6'5" and 305 pounds, he plays with toughness and strength in the run game. Mauch is coming from a lower level of competition, but his power and agility would immediately improve the Buffalo offensive line and give the team a boost in both the passing and running games when the weather turns cold and this offense seems to slow down.
Does this mean he gets invited to Kansas City for the draft?
If it stays around here, yes. Yes. That's how it works. So, by the
It's
way,
not far of a drive.
Yes, I agree with that. Also, the Bills have Spencer Brown, former Northern Iowa guy, starting on their offensive line, which, just to throw that out there. That's the first I've seen of now after the Senior Bowl, the projections out there. This just came out this morning. So, here we go.
Well, I guess
We're
if
off
that's
and
the
running.
case, then what about the Hankinson Community Center? I suppose he still rents it out.
Yeah, it'll still be full. I asked Joe about that on Friday's show, that there'll still be people there even if Cody doesn't end up being there. And granted, we got a long way to go, but from all intents and purposes, it was a very good week for the former Bison left tackle.
If that were the case, if he goes in the first round, to go from a 220-pound tight end as a freshman walk-on at NSU, which you gave him very little chance of making it, everybody,
Yeah.
even I don't think he figured
Yeah.
he
No
would
way.
end it. No way. An amazing success story. Just incredible.
Yep. It's one of the best that you can. The Wentz deal, we covered that was a phenomenon because we'd never experienced it before, and it engulfed the entire state, right? It just did. This one, if this comes to fruition, I think could be even bigger because of where he's from, his personality. This could be, if this ends up being in the first round, he could be a massive story by the time we get to the end of April. Really could be. I believe that.
Well,
just
Hank,
because of what you said and his personality, that just screams for more attention. It
whoever
really does.
drafts him, Hankinson better be ready for some major metro reporters coming to Hankinson, North Dakota, and actually Morton and the farm.
Yeah, right. Email comes in for you, Kolpack. As the football season never ends, as of now, there's been no news on the 3 big names that are in the portal. I know as NDSU policy that once you go in the portal, you cannot come back. But if they do not get anything they want and they want to come back, do you let them back in the program, especially the 2 on the defensive side of the ball? That's where the defense stands now.
No. I would be shocked if they let him back in. And actually, the rumor out there is a couple have inquired in coming back.
Is that right?
That's not gonna happen.
No, that's just, and it's not a rule for everyone. It's school to school. NDSU has set this. This is, if you're gonna go, then we'll wish you well. That's the
I'm
way
told
it works.
DJ Hart is not on the Northern Iowa roster,
That's
so
correct.
he may be done with football.
Wow, that is too bad if that ends up being the case. That is not great. I've heard on Dom Jones that High Power 5 have been inquiring there. So, I mean, but nothing, signing day is come and gone. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but for Jones, Eubanks, and Kobe Johnson, nothing
that we know of.
We didn't see anything. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but nothing was formally announced between.
And I believe they still have to go through school this semester at NDSU. They're probably still here.
Correct. So, if that's something maybe we're not going to hear until May.
Well, then that lowers your timeline of
there's
making
no
a
doubt about
difference
it.
because you're not at another school right now playing spring ball.
Correct.
Which would be a big deal to learn the system.
That's why
now you're
somebody
going to have
left.
to learn the system over the summer.
Correct.
You go into fall camp, just trying to figure out the defense, really.
I think
everybody has a little different system.
I've had this question. I appreciate the email. Thanks for listening and watching the show. I've had that question asked to me a couple times when I was at the Bison basketball game on Thursday. They asked me, hey, if the guys that went in and they didn't get anywhere, can they come back? And the standard answer on that has been no.
Well, they could.
Right? Yes, they could, but the door seems to be shut.
Can't have guys on your roster waffling. You can't be like you in your picks.
I knew you were going to say that.
You pick somebody on Tuesday, and then all of a sudden the pregame show comes along. You flip a 180.
But you're exactly right. I mean, you're either in the boat or you're not.
No,
right? I mean, that's the
100%.
It's not one step in here.
You can't have precedents where guys test the waters and then they go. Then you let them back. You just can't do that.
No, that to me seems that would be crazy.
And not so much from the coaching staff, but from the players.
Team, right?
The team.
Yep.
These guys are grinding it out now in winter workouts. I'm sure they're up there at 5 a.m. whatever, 5:30, and they're going through all this. And then you just can't let somebody come back in May and go, "Hey guys,
nope.
I guess I love you after all."
It's like the George Costanza Seinfeld where he quit and then he comes back on Monday.
Yeah.
No, you don't get to do that. That's not how that works. I had one other email. We talked about this. If you missed our podcast, you can listen to it at inforum.com about the wide receiver coach. We've heard one name out there, Steve Crutchley from the University of North Dakota. That's one name that potentially could be the guy. He has wide receiver coach experience at Temple before signing on at UND. So not confirmed, but at least that's the name that we have heard out there that potentially could be getting that position.
I would think that would happen this week, would it not? Or I thought it would happen last week,
I
but
would
who
think
knows?
Probably sometime over the next 5 days, we'll probably hear an announcement on, if it's not him, somebody on the wide receiver staff, because now it's the cut-ups are beginning of looking back at last year.
Oh, the cut-ups.
And then starting to
do you watch cut-ups with the staff during the week?
I watch cut-ups of us, of our work, to see.
Oh, my God. Do you really?
You got to. You need a big 2023 here. I'm just saying, big bounce back. Your upside is
there like a file this thick of my screw-ups?
Let's just say.
And then here's the highlights.
Let's just say you better behave at the Waste Management Open. The cameras are going to be on you there.
Maybe I should bring a fake nose and glasses.
You want to start booing Tom Hoagie?
Hoagie, you stink.
How about the other side? What if he gets a hole-in-one when you're there?
I'm throwing a beer. I don't care how much it costs.
So that's the thing,
Actually,
right?
I do care how much it costs.
I was going to say, how much those run? $15, $16? You're going to lose that? Come on now. And they actually do that, right? Unlike Philadelphia, which they don't encourage doing that. At the Waste Management,
and the hole-in-one, you saw the highlights,
I have seen that. They literally encourage them to do that, though, right? Oh, my gosh. That is wild.
I'll give you a report next Monday.
I can't wait. You'll be back with us next Monday.
If I'm in a sling, it's because I hurt my shoulder throwing a beer.
Wear a helmet out there, no doubt. Thanks for coming, bud. Jeff Kolpack joining us each and every Monday here on the show. When we take a break, we come back. We'll check in with another former Bison offensive lineman beginning his pro career. Nash Jensen will join us after his experience at the Rose Bowl, the NFLPA game. We'll do that when we start hour 2 after this.
Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody, on a Monday morning. WDAY ExtraInforum.com. Hot Mike rolls on. Our thanks to Jeff Kolpack for coming on. The final few holes of the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am are underway from Pebble. Tom Hoagie, as we mentioned, has 4 holes remaining in his final round before he gets out of Dodge to head to the Waste Management. So we'll update you on that. Justin Rose leads the golf tournament. He has 9 holes remaining. Always love live sports on a time window where it's not supposed to be. So we've got that going on this morning out in Pebble Beach. Again, just circling back on a couple things here. Our buddy Nash Jensen is actually wrapping up his last reps of the morning workout, and then he's going to join us from Boca Raton here in just a second. But just saw as well, just to keep an eye on, one of SIU's top defenders entered the portal over the weekend. So something to keep an eye on, obviously, with the addition of Jason Petrino now as defensive coordinator at North Dakota State, something that potentially could have a reunion. We'll see. We mentioned earlier when Kolpack was on, we were chatting about the weekend for Cody Malk that he had down in Mobile, Alabama. Apparently it was a pretty good one. The guy that played right next to him for the last 3 years is good enough to join us because he's got his own plans on professional football as he's joining us from lovely Florida on this Monday morning. It's great to see Nash Jensen. What rep did you just wrap up? What did you just do?
Our 40, so I just did the 10-yard burst part, so just the first little part of the 40.
Okay, can you tell us the time?
They don't give us the time to tell us until you get them down on the computer, but it feels better than the first time I did it, so.
Okay, so I got to ask, when you see your buddy all over Twitter last week and he's got the half jersey on and he's wowing the NFL, tell me what was going through your mind when you saw it last week.
I just makes me remember how much I miss playing next to that dude. I mean, it was so fun. All those little shenanigans that he would do, I can't imagine he wasn't pulling some of those down in Mobile. But I always got a little laugh out of it and just love seeing the great reps that he got and the ones that I saw.
Now, you at practice, did you see him snap? We're not there a ton of practice. How was he good at it at center?
No, yeah, I mean, both of us were kind of doing just snapping. Like, we would just snap to each other after practice. But, I mean, he's obviously been doing something out there with Joe Staley working on that center technique. So, but, yeah, we've always been doing it a little bit, but it's never been, like, the full technique of it.
So, you played guard. So tell me, him moving into play guard, how difficult is that to go from tackle to play guard, him doing it this week, basically try it out in front of the NFL guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really you're getting into closer quarters. I mean, you got a little bit more space out there at tackle, but the guys are most likely bigger and most likely the same speed as the defensive end. So it's just a little bit more smaller detail stuff on the inside that you got to be ready for, but he did it very well.
So you were in Florida after spending the previous week out in L.A. and California at the NFLPA game. Describe that experience, Nash, what that was like getting in and playing and what you took from the week in L.A.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, it was fun to just get the pads back on again. You know, I hated I had to put knee braces on one more time for another week, but other than that, it was super fun. I got to meet a lot of really cool guys. And all the interviews went really well. I just had to be me, just tell them straight up answers. And, it was just really fun. You know, they really made it really easy for us out there with the scheme that we were running. So we didn't have to learn so much within a week so we could get those techniques down on certain plays. But I mean, it was overall just a really fun experience.
We're watching some of the video from the NFLPA game you played in, and there were some guys that you obviously played against. I saw Lindsey Scott was out there from Incarnate Word, which I'm sure you brought back some fun memories of that game. What was just seeing some guys you knew, or was there anybody really looking excited to go up against out there?
I think it was more being excited for the guys I got to play next to. I mean, obviously I had the honor and privilege of playing next to the big redhead for 3 years. But again, to play next to dudes from other schools, it was super fun just getting to learn different things that they did at their schools. Before the game, I didn't really look much at like the defensive guys that I'd be going against.
Yeah.
But obviously I was just ready for any challenge that came to it.
So, do you get the off the wall questions there, or what was there one that kind of you had to look at, like what is that? Did you get any of those out there?
No, not really. I really did expect to. Like I'm doing interview prep with the offensive line guy down here, and he threw me the most off the wall question I had gotten yet a couple of days ago when we were doing some interview stuff. But, there was no, like, really crazy ones. Like, it was more just get to know me. There were only a couple of teams who had me, watch film on them or watch film on myself and just kind of go over it with them. But overall, it was really just a get-to-know-you process. I can imagine at Pro Day or at Combine, if an invite comes, it'll be a lot more in-depth and a lot more details.
Okay, could you tell us what the question was that you got from your prep?
if you had $400, but you were stranded in the middle of the Sahara Desert, what would you do first to get to civilization or just to survive? And I'm like, what am I going to do with $400 out in the middle of the Sahara Desert? So I said, find absolutely any kind of water source. And he said some other guys he's training said that they would burn the $400. Obviously, you don't really need that when you're in the middle of the desert, make a fire and stuff. But yeah, that was really the off the wall one I kind of got.
Wow, that is. Well, you make sense. You need water, man. Without water, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
I'll find some way to survive.
How does that relate to you playing guard in the NFL? Where's the correlation there? I don't get it.
Oh, I think he said that it was kind of like it's kind of like a critical thinking question. I guess.
I guess.
But honestly, I can't imagine that it correlates to much other than what's going on in whatever crazy scout's mind.
Oh, man, that is all right. I thought you were going to be like, if you like dogs or cats, or if you like flowers, what kind of flower are you? You know, I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, it wasn't anything like that.
I got to ask, just, obviously people know your story of what's gone on, especially with your family over the last year, and now this is up next. You describe the roller coaster of what the last 7-8 months have been like for you?
It's just been crazy. Obviously, like you said, it's been an emotional roller coaster. But I really got to give thanks to just those who are around me or in my circle, coaches, obviously my best friends on the football team, especially my fiance, Caitlin. She's really the reason that I'm still doing this today. Obviously, in my stories, I told stories about how I almost quit football and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't be at this stage in my life if it wasn't for her. But it's just always, especially once my dad passed away, I just really kept my routine. I had moved my family up to Moorhead the week before he passed away, so there wasn't any family to go back home to, or at least immediate family, because they were all up in Moorhead with me. So I just stuck to my routine, and the next day after I found out he passed away, I was in workouts lifting. And I got so many guys just poured into me and just make sure that I stayed on the right path.
To now think of where things are at, man, I just am interested because I talked with Cody about this, and I know I visited with you after the South Dakota State game. Have you even had a chance to process the championship game? Because I know the next day started professional life for you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the processing came directly after the game.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't a guy who was thinking that, I could have done this or that during the game. I felt like we all gave it every last bit that we could have to make that game try to go our way. But I mean, they obviously just got the better of us. They deserve that championship. They have an amazing team. They're going to have an amazing team next year.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch how that whole year goes next year. But like you said, I really had to flip the script literally the next day. So wasn't much processing, but just got to live with it,
If I would have told you 6 years ago you ended up playing 70 games for the Bison, I mean, no one could have ever accounted, obviously, for what COVID was, but you were going to play that many football games. What would you have told me if we had that conversation 4 years ago?
I would have told you to give me the best number to the best, therapist or something, physical therapist. My body beat up, obviously playing so many games down here, but I would have called you crazy. I mean, obviously, once I first got there, I had dreams of playing a lot of games. I had dreams of starting as a freshman. I didn't really know much about the roster, but I had a little All-American there named Austin Cooner ahead of me in my position. But I mean, yeah, I would have called you crazy. I can't thank the coaches enough for helping me grow in my development, and just especially even the training staff and Coach Kramer keeping me healthy for so long. Just can't give thanks enough to everybody.
You had the Cal Ripken streak of starts, and I remember for the Youngstown game, I saw you. You were mad. You weren't getting to play. Tell me about that.
I was so mad. I wanted to play in that game so bad. Obviously it wasn't to keep the streak. my starting streak alive, but I mean, it was just so I could be out there with my brothers and just battle with them. But I knew that my knee wasn't at 100% yet, and that Gray would have been able to go in there and produce just as well, even better than I could at that point in time. So just kind of had to sacrifice my pride a little bit and let Gray go out there and do the work.
Couple minutes left here with Nash Jensen. Is there a guy on the young guys in the offensive line we don't know yet who could be a stud for the Bison?
Obviously you got the Grays, Abel, Mason, Miller. I think Devin Lockerbie.
Okay.
I think he reminded myself a little bit of me.
Yeah.
Just a really big kid. He's kind of transforming his body a little bit, transforming that fat into muscle. Obviously, he didn't come in at 370 like I did, but everybody's got a little bit of transforming to do. He's just a young pup who's getting the techniques down, and just watching his growth throughout the year was absolutely insane. He was a completely different player from when he stepped on the Dakota field the first day for conditioning and where he was at by the last practice in Frisco.
Another Minnesota guy too, so I'm sure you got a little helps out for you, right?
Yeah.
So what's ahead? What's on the calendar here between now and Pro Day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down here until I honestly don't know how long I'm down here until. It's either the end of February or like mid-March or early March or something like that.
Okay.
So we're just training until then. Then I'll get a week off. Be up in Fargo Moorhead and hang out with my fiance, train a little bit. I'm gonna get back in the weight room with the guys. And then I'm gonna go back down to the cities in Eden Prairie and train with the trainer I have down here, who I've been with since 8th or 9th grade. I'm gonna go down to Minnesota, train at Game Face Training up until Pro Day. So
wow. Last question. Who is the hardest guy to go against on the defensive line? Either in practice or in games. Who was the absolute boy? This guy, he is a beast.
In practice, I have two of them. One was Eli Mostart. I mean, obviously, we all know his potential and what level he can play at. I absolutely hated that he got hurt this year. But he always gives me problems. He's super quick. He's really good in pass rush. He's had me frustrated a lot. And then another guy that I absolutely hated going against, and especially in one-on-ones, was Matt Beagler. Dude was a very sneaky pass rusher. He would get me a lot. But, yeah, those two definitely come to mind for on the team. But for opponents, I have to go with Caleb Sanders from SDSU. Yeah. He's an absolute dumb. He's really good in pass rush, always plays with low pad level. He's a really smart player, too. You can tell he's seeing things during the game happening that the offensive line is doing, and he's able to take advantage of that. And then the next one would be Jared Brinkman. I mean,
another stud.
Can't say enough about what kind of player he was. I mean, he absolutely whooped my butt in spring COVID year when we went down to UNI. I mean, I got benched that game because of him pretty much. But, yeah, those two are definitely the top two that come to mind.
It's great to see you, man. I'm glad things are going so well and you had a good experience out in L.A. We'll catch up again soon before Pro Day, okay?
All right. Appreciate you.
Good to see you, bud. Nash Jensen, former Bison standout left guard who is training down in Boca Raton right now, literally as he just got done with a rep there, and we'll see him up in March for NDSU's Pro Day. Try to see if get another Bison offensive lineman get a deal in the NFL. We know one's going to get one. We're just wondering how high now after that draft projection out from Matt Miller with Cody Mount going at the end of the first round. Good stuff there with Nash. We appreciate that. We're going to take a break. We come back. I got to talk this bizarre story this weekend from Jim Boeheim, the legendary coach at Syracuse, about NIL, and it's weird what college coaches are doing right now. We'll do that when we come back here on Hot Mic. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Nash Jensen for coming on. I got a quick segment here I got to do. I read this story Saturday night, and I kind of scoffed at it, and I thought this would be good for the show here. Just, again, to give us a full appreciation of where we're at in Division I athletics. First, the update on the story, we were talking about this at the end of December and early January on Jaden Rashada, the quarterback that was going to go to Florida. And then his NIL deal was kaput and then went back. He had already signed to go to Florida, got out of his letter of intent, and has since committed to a different school. But listen, this is part of the contract that he had for his NIL. Called for a $500,000 upfront payment. After that, payments would increase from $250,000 a month as a freshman to $291,666 as a sophomore to $375,000 a month as a junior, rounded out with $195,833 as a senior, so long as he fulfilled the following obligations: a residence in Gainesville, at least one branded Twitter post and one branded Instagram post per month, up to 8 fan engagements per year. These can include in-person appearances, social media engagements, video conferences, or interviews. Autographs up to 15 pieces of merchandise per year. That's at the very top, folks, all right? And then I'll bring in this story from college basketball. Legendary Hall of Fame head coach Jim Boeheim, after game Saturday, says, this is an awful place we're in college basketball. Pittsburgh bought a team. Okay, fine. My big donor talks about it, but he doesn't give anyone any money. Nothing. Not one guy. Our guys make like $20,000. Wake Forest bought a team. Miami bought a team. It's like, really, this is where we are? That's really, really where we are, and it's only going to get worse. It's crazy. That's why those guys got out. That's why Jay Wright and Mike Krzyzewski got out. That's the reason they got out. The transfer portal and everything is nuts. It really is. Added today, Jeff Capel on the ACC conference call says, I haven't thought about name, image, likeness that much. I don't understand why the coaches are so clutching their pearls about this. Right? It's been going on for years. It's now allowed. I guess maybe is that the part that they have a hard time with? It has to be. It has to be. What else could it be? Because it's been going on for decades. Now it's allowed, and they're like, oh, we can't do it. Like, I can't wrap my mind around it. Like, what? They bought a team. Yeah, they did. It's a lot. By the way, here's the biggest point. It's allowed. You can do it. That I don't understand the whole, well, we're better than that. We'll never do that. What? No, stop it. I don't get that part of it to me. Like this holier than thou attitude around it. If you don't want to engage in it, that's fine. But be prepared to get lapped around the field by other schools and programs that are going to do it. This whole notion that, well, they bought a team. So what? It's allowed. What Deion's doing at Colorado, it's fine. That's the whole point. NIL is allowed. If you thought it was going to start out with just, hey, they'll be allowed to do commercials and make money from that, which, by the way, you can do. We've seen that here locally. It's also to the point where, yes, it can be used to get a player to transfer or a high school player, a top high school player, to sign with your team. There's nothing against that. Literally nothing. And there won't be. I mean, they can keep talking about it and trying to pass legislation for it. The horse out of the barn on that. It ain't coming back. So this notion that buying teams is somehow reprehensible and it's against the nature of the game. Okay. What's the great line? And I love Moneyball. Brad Pitt says in that movie, adapt or die. That's it. Or adapt or get fired. One or the other. Right? And I'm not saying here at the mid-major level it's happening a ton. You're seeing players leave because not necessarily of name, image, likeness, but the portal's there and the opportunity to play at Power 5 basketball where there is name, image, likeness, further opportunities there. Yes. So that's how it's affecting this level that we cover. And while some may find the portal distasteful or reprehensible, or certainly name, image, likeness isn't to their taste or liking, I'll go again and quote Billy Beane from Moneyball. Adapt or die. That's where we're at. You may not like it. I may not like it, but that's where we're at. How many? I mean, that literally could be the show slogan here. That's where we're going to go. So this whining over they bought teams, stop it. It's been going on for years. Now it's allowed. I just don't understand. I shook my head when I saw that. Like, by the way, college coaches have been allowed to go wherever, whenever they've wanted. So again, stop it on that to me. That, well, the players can go up and go. Coaches have been doing that for years. Decades. All right. Enough of that. It's dumb. The idea of that is dumb. We'll take a break. We come back. Big week for North Dakota high school hoops. Potential vote of the three-class revised proposal, however you want to describe it. We'll visit with one former girls basketball coach and what he thinks of it out in southwestern North Dakota. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, on a Monday morning. Hot Mike, WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. We talked about it plenty last week, and again, we'll hit it pretty hard here leading up to Wednesday, where potentially the North Dakota High School Activities Association Executive Board will get feedback on a survey they sent out last Friday on the renovated or revised proposal for three-class basketball with potential passage for next season for the 2023-24 basketball season that would take North Dakota high school hoops from 2 to 3 classes. I'm super excited to have our next guest on. I used to bug him, seemed like every February. His team was making the state basketball tournament. They did it 3 straight years at Henniker Scranton from 2019 to 2021. Then he got out of coaching, and now he's on the administrative side, so he's got some real decisions to make. Our pleasure to welcome in Scranton Superintendent, former Henniker Scranton head girls basketball coach Kelly Pierce joins us here, who dressed up for the occasion, by the way. You're way overdressed for Hot Mike. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
I am, but thanks for having me on, Dom. I'm excited to visit with you this morning.
Well, I appreciate the time. You're a school that I think is right in the heart of this conversation. So let's go back, I guess, the initial, when you saw it from the focus group, your thoughts on it, and now where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think moving from 2 classes to 3 classes was something that probably was going to be inevitable at some point. I know the focus group put a lot of time and effort trying to collect data, with their 2 main talking points being, participation levels and competitive balance. They really talked a lot about that. And I respect the amount of time and effort that they put into this plan and the Activities Association making some tweaks to it and trying to put the best plan in place as possible for basketball in the state of North Dakota.
For your particular school, where did you see this? Is it helpful, hurtful? Where do you see it at?
I think, from a coaching standpoint, I always look forward to those big games. The Dickinson Trinities, the Beulahs. I relish those events as a coach. I think my players relish those opportunities to play the big schools on the block. But we also know that our enrollments are diminishing, and our ability to compete at that level is getting more and more difficult. I really noticed that a lot once we made it to the stage at the state level. We had the opportunity to play the Central Casses and those types of schools that, quite frankly, outmatched us to an extent. No matter how much our kids worked and put in the time, they had some really phenomenal basketball teams, and all the credit to them and the hard work that they put in. So as far as Hettinger Scranton goes, I don't know if this plan helps us, hurts us. I know we're going to miss some of those rivalries against some of those bigger schools. But I also look at other schools in our region, and we have schools in our region that haven't even made the regional. I mean, they've been in the first round of the regional tournament, but they have not made it to the tournament setting with our super region in 10, 11 years. And those are the schools that I really, really feel for.
You make a great point. I was visiting with Jeremy Brandt about this, the Beulah boys coach, who they relish the games against Trinity, but you could almost rubber stamp it's going to be Beulah or Trinity in the boys region championship. And for yourself, and this is, I'm not trying to inflate your ego, but you guys were there for 4 straight years in the region championship. That it just was, you could predict probably before the season started who was going to be there. And what fun is there in that?
Right. I agree with that. I look at the Beulahs, the Trinities, those schools, they have been in our regional championship game, one, if not both, pretty much every year for the last 20 years. And it's very evident on the boys' side, that disparity in and at Hettinger Scranton and Scranton prior to that, we had some really good basketball teams, but we couldn't ever get over the hump. We were competitive. We were competing. We thought we had teams that could make it to the state tournament, but for whatever reason, we just couldn't get over that hump here and there, I guess. But I feel for those teams as well, and I guess when I look at the plan that could be voted on Wednesday, could go through, I guess my own personal opinion is the Division A. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that division's large enough with 29 teams, but then I also look at the competitive balance. And when you take a Devil's Lake, a Turtle Mountain, a Watford City, that's a pretty high enrollment versus a Heart River in our region and those types of things. So I guess when I look at the plan, I would have liked to see the Class A division a little larger, but lower that top end and lower the bottom end. I have a hard time seeing Devil's Lake and in particular with that division, because they have had a lot of success in the current 2-class system. Yes, they're not probably competing for a lot of state championships, but they're in the mix every year.
Kelly, I'll ask you, as a Class B former coach, I think there's a lot of support. There was, because the private schools were getting kicked out of your class to the middle class. Did you get a sense of that?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of support due to that fact, right, wrong, indifferent. We've had in our region 7, Dickinson Trinity's been a power on the boys' side for a lot of years. And I look at their enrollments. Their enrollments aren't huge. Some of it might have to do that they have a Hall of Fame coach and Mr. Grinsteiner. That kind of helps some things as well. Yep. So, but I guess in our region, our biggest issue with it is our regional tournaments are played on their home courts.
Yep.
And it's no fault of Dickinson Trinities. There's really no other facilities in the area. We've had it in Hazen a few times because that's really been the only facility in our region large enough to host it. Well, you're playing on somebody else's home court then and traveling an extra hour and a half to get there. So for us, we always felt Dickinson Trinity was really our only option, our best option for Hettinger Scranton anyway.
with the new region and districts, how this is drawn up, is your travel any worse, better, or just is it the same for who you be playing?
You know, for us, Dom, travel is it's an everyday occurrence. You know, I think of our foot in the football plan. You know, we're traveling to Linton and to Ashley and to Napoleon, and you know, we have 4.5 hour bus trips for regular season games, and I guess when I look at on the basketball side, so we'll definitely have a little bit more travel, but I don't think it's going to add up to the numbers that are really going to affect us. We're already traveling to Beulah, Hazen 2.5 hours for regular season games. So travel really isn't an issue for us.
That's just life where you're at, right?
It is. It's where we're located. You know, the Bowman counties, the Hettinger Strantons, the Beach Buccaneers. We're traveling all over.
Well, I'm not trying to kiss up here, but that's what made when you guys made it, especially to Grand Forks, awesome. Because you had the best support and you came from the furthest away.
Yeah, and our fans are used to traveling, and Nighthawk Nation's always followed us. You know, whether we're playing for, you know, a chance in the semifinals of the regional tournament or if we're at the Betty in Grand Forks. I mean, they've always given us great support. And I think with this 3-class system, I think your Class B state tournaments, you're going to see a lot more of that. You know, we hadn't been to state on the girls' side since, you know, and forever. And on the boys' side, you know, we made it from Scranton in 2000. Mm-hmm. I think it was 95 last time Hettinger's been there. So when we made it there, it didn't, I mean, we could have played that 5 states over and we would have been there. And it was a great experience. And hopefully we can get a few more communities involved with some experiences like that.
Couple minutes left here with Kelly. What do you make of the changes to the postseason to get to state? How that will work out? Do you like that? You a fan of that?
You know, I like the opportunity to go back to districts. Like I said, we've had some schools that their players haven't had an opportunity to be in a real tournament setting for quite a few years, and so I like getting back to districts with the opportunity to advance. I think the qualifier games could be an interesting twist to it, making sure that when you get to the state tournament, you're gonna have your top teams there and going to have just a dynamic state tournament, I believe.
Well, here's the thing: I've never been a fan of the third place game, but this actually makes a region third place game worthwhile now.
Exactly. You know, before our 3-trip run to state, we actually played in the third place game 2 years in a row. And as a coach, I was not a big fan of it either. You know, it was one of those where, you could get some of your seniors one last time on the court, or do you develop some of your younger kids, getting them? I mean, it was a fine line, but you know, it added to the atmosphere for the championship game by bringing a few more people into the gym, but as a coach, I was never a big proponent of those games. Well,
and to your point also, where are you going to play those games? I'm sure that's going to be a question you have in your region especially. Like, where are we going to play these neutral site games at?
Right. Yeah, that's a question. And there's a lot of answers left in this, you know, that need to be given in this plan. And I know the Activities Association and you know the people on that will work hard and do what's right for the students in North Dakota. But there's a lot of unknowns with this plan, and I'm kind of glad I'm not the one having to make some of these decisions.
All right, before I let you go, I'll put you on the spot. What do you think is going to happen on Wednesday?
I think we're going to see a 3-class system. I don't know if it's going to be able to be pushed through by next season.
Okay.
But I do think we're going to have a 3-class system, and hopefully over time we can take an imperfect plan, in my opinion, and tweak it and get the best plan possible for the students in North Dakota. I mean, that's what it's all about, is our athletes and making sure that they have the best opportunity to compete. And I think that's important. You know, I don't think this plan is going to improve participation numbers. Maybe it will, but I just don't see it. I think we're up against too many different things in society. I don't think that's the problem.
I agree with you there. I do not think that's going to be addressed on this one. Competitive balance, that's a whole other issue. We don't have enough time to get into that. It's great to see you again. Thanks so much for giving us some time. Be well, and we'll chat again down the road, okay?
Yeah, you take care, Dom. Thanks for the opportunity.
You got it. Appreciate it, bud. Kelly Scranton, superintendent out in Scranton, North Dakota, former girls basketball coach of the Nighthawks. Took him to 3 straight years. We appreciate his time on our show here this morning. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on it. Get you ready for a busy Sports Monday. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps after this on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. Wrapping up our show here. Busy Monday. Tomorrow, Kyle May will be by. We'll recap Cody Mauch's week at the Senior Bowl, prep the Super Bowl as well, Eagles and the Chiefs, as apparently there's a football game coming up on Sunday. We'll chat about that coming up tomorrow. Look forward to that on the show. Also, we got a couple of really neat deals later this week. Thursday, obviously, is Giving Hearts Day. Or Friday. What day is it? Friday? Thursday's Giving Hearts Day. Wednesday, we'll preview that with a couple of cool in-studio guests. I don't want to give away too much. That's coming up on the show on Wednesday. And then Friday, we normally have a lot of fun Friday because obviously we do picks with my dad, and we'll do that Super Bowl pick. But many know how much of a Seinfeld rube I am. We are there's some local guys who've done, I can't even believe this, it's a Seinfeld show tournament bracket. That's about as much as I want to give away right now, but we're going to get into that on the show on Friday. So we're going to have some fun coming up as the week goes on. Obviously, we'll still hit the major topics of the week, including, of course, with the 3-class potential vote. I'll couch it, potential. They could vote on it. They may push it to February 22nd, but that's the deadline about implementation for next season. So just to remind everybody about that, it's not a done deal that something's going down, just that I've heard momentum is for it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. We'll wait and see. That's coming up on Wednesday, of course. Update from the golf course. Tom Hoagie playing his final few holes at Pebble Beach. Made another birdie. Started his day with a birdie. Nothing wrong with that. At the 6th hole, just parred 7. He's got 2 holes remaining. He's currently tied for 49th at 3 under par. Obviously will not repeat as champion of this event. Justin Rose leads by 2 as he has 6 holes remaining in his final round. But then it's on to the Waste Management Open. Much like Kolpack, he'll be there beginning later, probably later today, I imagine. Gets on the jet and heads to Scottsdale to get ready for preparation for that tournament, which begins on Thursday. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this Monday. The second half of the season begins tonight for the Minnesota Wild after the All-Star break, opening up in the 5,000-seat arena that is Mullen Arena, I believe it is, for the Arizona Coyotes. That's 8 o'clock. That's actually Bally Sports North. Just a heads up on that. BSN, Bally Sports North for that game tonight between the Wild and the Coyotes. Also, as I mentioned, Pebble Beach golf is going on now, so don't turn us off until about another minute and a half, as Kyle will tell me. Flip it on right after we're done to see the conclusion of what's going on the Golf Channel. There it is. There's the 90-second warning. Then so you can flip us on, or flip us off, and plenty of people flip me off. Could turn on AT&T Pebble Beach final round going on the Golf Channel here in just a couple minutes. Also, it is Super Bowl opening night. The formal thing they used to call Media Day is now Super Bowl opening night. I've had a chance to go to this. It is a gong show and then some. When we went to XL Energy Centers, where they had it in St. Paul when the Super Bowl was in Minneapolis a few years ago. And this is when the two teams will be assembled to be asked every sort of oddball question you can imagine from every sort of media outlet that is approved for credentials that go to this event. It's now a televised deal, which I shouldn't be surprised on anything what the NFL does, but that's tonight, 7 o'clock, ESPN2, if you like that sort of thing or want to hear the Kelsey brothers say something off the wall. Probably guaranteed for that coming up tonight on ESPN2. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Kelly Pierce, Nash Jensen, and Jeff Kolpack. If you missed any of our program, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Hope everybody enjoyed our show and have a great Monday. And we'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com.